You may begin.
Hello, and thank you everybody for joining today's webinar. We're going to be diving into our upcoming Winter 2012 release, and we're very excited to be sharing the details of that with you today. I do want to remind you that we want to make this, as always, very interactive. So if you are on the call live today, you can use the panels on the right-hand side, and we will be recording today's presentation and making it available for others to watch after the event. Also want to mention that we have a polling question just to get a sense of who's joining. We had a lot of people register towards early this morning and last minute. So there's a polling question on the right-hand side just asking, are you an Informatica Cloud customer? Are you a partner? Are you considering us as a prospective customer, or are you considering to become an Informatica partner? So if you can take a second to fill that out, and we'll close out that poll and just keep going. So today's agenda is really going to be focused on the product. So I'm happy to have our head of product management, Ron Lunassen, on the call today, who many of you know, who will be taking us through a very detailed demonstration of some of the new functionality. And
hello, everyone.
Thanks, Ron. Hi, everybody.
Sorry.
On the right-hand side, I just wanted to highlight that this is really continued momentum for Informatica Cloud. So this business was established back in 2006, and we've continued to execute really pioneering cloud data integration, and we're really excited about where this release is taking us. So let's just see those polling results, and then we'll move on into today's presentation. And I'm going to keep going. It looks like we have mostly customers and some with no answers, but a really good mix. So some partners, some people that are thinking about Informatica Cloud, and some prospective partners. So you can see the results there on the right-hand side. And let's keep going into today's presentations. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Informatica Cloud, I thought I'd take a minute just to give you a very brief overview of what it is we do and what we've been focused on here at Informatica. So really there's three key areas that have really been at the core of everything we've done and everything we continue to do within Informatica Cloud. The first is focusing on simplicity in terms of ease of use, making sure we're delivering really the easiest to use cloud data integration options for you in the market. And now that doesn't mean it's a simple product in terms of functionality. There's actually a ton of power in Informatica Cloud because we share the same underlying engine of the core Informatica platform. But in terms of end user focus, we're constantly looking at how can we make this easier? How can we really ensure broad adoption? And that continues to be a focus with this release. The second feature I'm going to talk about, which is a true software as a service solution. And I'm going to take a minute to explain the architecture of Informatica Cloud if you're new to this service. And you may be already using Informatica, our core platform, and you may not be aware of the capabilities of Informatica Cloud. And the third is something we're constantly striving for is continued focus on customer success, customer adoption. This is an on-demand service, so it's really critical that our customers adopt and take advantage of the new capabilities, which is why we're going to be diving into such detail into the winter release in today's presentation. So I mentioned simplicity, and I like this slide from Forrester, timely in terms of a lot of the focus on Apple lately. But we're really trying to make integration as simple as possible and really focusing on self-service. Now, some people think integration is hard, it's complicated. It really is all going to depend on what you've been using prior to now, as far as a data integration, application integration solution. But you'll see as Ron goes through Informatica Cloud, if you've never seen the service before, the real focus on simplicity and how that will come through in our cloud data integration service. So how does Informatica Cloud work? So fundamentally, this is a web-based service. So as you would expect with a cloud service. So you would visit informaticacloud.com, and we'll go out to the website in the demonstration and register. You can register for a trial. It's a try before you buy kind of situation. Get started. Get up and running with an org of Informatica Cloud. What you're then going to be prompted to do is install the secure agent. And the secure agent is really where all of the power happens. This is the execution engine. This is the crown jewel of Informatica. This is really a shrunken down Power Center engine that's really doing all the heavy lifting. So up on the web is where you're going to be creating your jobs, creating your schedules. It's going to have all the information about you and your org. And once you run a job or schedule a job to run, it's going to send the instructions to the agent, and the agent is going to be doing the transformation, the integration between sources and targets. So really important that to understand that when we say Informatica Cloud, we're not talking about hosting your data in the cloud. We're facilitating the movement of data between applications, whether they're cloud-based or even on-premise. And Ron will talk about that in his demonstration. So with that, we're going to shift gears because I know there are a lot of customers on the call, and we want to dive into the new capabilities. So I'm going to give a quick overview and then hand it over to Ron to dive in. So there's really 3 key areas of focus with this release. I've already talked about simplicity, but we're really excited to introduce a new contact validation service. We're introducing a much broader connectivity capability. So we're introducing something we call the Rapid Connectivity Framework. And as always, with every release, we're looking at how can we deliver more enterprise-class functionality. We're seeing growing demands in terms of complexity, data volumes, data sources, and it's really imperative that Informatica Cloud is able to meet the needs of our largest customers, but at the same time also be able to be meaningful and useful for a lot of the smaller accounts that are working with the multi-tenant service. So I'm going to spend a quick couple of minutes on each of these and then hand it over to Ron. So the new contact validation service, this is really extending what Informatica Cloud's been able to do to data quality. We've been very focused on integration as a service, and we're excited to really be moving more of the Informatica core technologies to this cloud service model. So we're introducing a contact validation service that will allow you to verify and correct postal information. It will also verify email addresses and check phone numbers against the Do Not Call registry in the U.S. And as you see in the bottom left, the contact validation service, like the rest of the Informatica Cloud Winter 2012 release, will be delivered in January. The second area of this release of real interest and that's getting a lot of attention is our new connectivity framework. So some of you may not be aware that Informatica has a very robust marketplace where you can go and look at data integration, data quality technologies. We have a lot of our partners building and delivering solutions through that marketplace. So what we're doing now with Informatica Cloud is opening up our platform and allowing our partners to build connectors as well as templates that will integrate application-specific processes between multiple applications and deliver those through the marketplace. So this is really expanding the footprint and the overall connectivity capability of Informatica Cloud. And if you visit our website, you'll see a very long list of connectors. I'm just going to show you, highlight some of the kinds of systems that we're integrating with today. But this is really expanding what's possible. So we want to know, what is it you want to connect to? We want to talk to our partners about what kinds of systems they have expertise in connecting to and delivering solutions for, and we want to make sure we can deliver these through the marketplace. So very exciting innovation and something we see as really expanding what's possible in terms of a cloud data integration service. And then lastly, before I hand it over to Ron, I mentioned the third area is enterprise focus. So many of our customers are taking advantage of some of the capabilities we delivered in our summer release. And our summer release was very focused on the kinds of security and authentication and profiling features that some of our large customers, many of the large existing Informatica customers, have demanded and come to expect, and before they can consider a cloud-based data integration solution to complement what they're already doing with the core Informatica platform. So with our summer release, we added things like delegated administration, the ability to centrally manage multiple instances or orgs of Informatica Cloud, as well as the ability to create specific profiles and determine user access rights. So who can access what data, when, and how. So we're with this release, with Informatica Cloud 2012, there's some really exciting functionality around real-time and bulk API support specifically for Salesforce. Now, if you're one of the customers that is taking advantage of our 24/7 enterprise support option, we are introducing live chat for our enterprise support customers. So again, this is becoming mission critical, and our customers who are demanding 24/7 support want to be able to contact a support engineer anytime through this live chat capability. And there's a few other functionality features that Ron will talk about: activity logs, improved error messaging, enhancements to our data replication service, and we're also expanding what's possible with our mobile administration application. So you may have noticed that recently we announced a mobile administration solution for the iPhone and the iPad, and we're expanding that to Android with this release. So that's a quick overview of the functionality. I think we're going to switch gears and move away from PowerPoint now and dive into what this looks like within the service. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ron to take it away.
Great, thank you, Darren. All right, so everyone, I'm going to go ahead and do some live demos here of the Winter 2012 release. So I've got Informatica Cloud open right now, and what I'll show you are the bulk of the demos are going to be focused on the 4 main functional areas of improvement around Informatica Cloud. The first thing I'll go ahead and demo is the new contact validation service, so I'll actually go through that in detail. The second demo I'll focus on is the new real-time capabilities centered around Salesforce's outbound messaging and workflow capabilities. The third demo will be, I'll show you how you would set up bulk API inside of Informatica Cloud and whenever you're loading into Salesforce. And I'll also show some connectivity pieces here, some of the connectivity enhancements that Darren talked about, and I'll specifically show some functionality around Microsoft Dynamics CRM. All right.
And Ron, I just want to remind people that they can use the chat panels. As you dive into some of this functionality, I'll be pinging you with a few questions as they come in.
Great. All right, so here, let's go ahead and start off with the contact validation service. So I go to the Data Services tab, and for those of you that are not as familiar with Informatica Cloud or are new to it, this is where you see all of the core functionality that Informatica Cloud has to offer. Data synchronization is our core integration capability. We've got a data replication capability, data assessment, and some integration with our on-premise Power Center product. But I'm going to drill into contact validation. Now, just like all the other services that we've got with Informatica Cloud, go ahead and click New. You'll see a very similar paradigm. Nice, simple, in this case it's a 6-step wizard, to go ahead and configure a contact validation task. All right, so here in step 1, I'm going to go ahead and give this a name to keep track of this, so webinar demo. And here you see the core functionality that Darren talked about. Do I want to perform validation for postal addresses? Do I want to add geocode data as part of that? Validate email addresses to make sure that it is a valid email address that can receive email. And we also have the ability to do a lookup against the U.S. Do Not Call registry. And one thing to note about the postal addresses, this actually leverages functionality where we have access to the actual postal authorities for over 240 countries worldwide. So this is not just a North America or U.S.-centric approach. This is something that is intended to be used for global postal addresses. All right, so you just go off, check the boxes for the services that you're interested in. Step 2 is where I pick my source. So what do I want to perform this validation against? For my demo, I'm going to go ahead and choose my Salesforce org. But if we take a look, we can actually use the service for the different databases and applications that we support. And as we continue to expand on our functionality around connectivity, as Darren talked about earlier, we'll also see those available to us in our drop-downs and be able to leverage those new connectors with all of the services that Informatica Cloud provides. But here again, I'm just going to go and choose my Salesforce org. And most commonly, I would expect Salesforce customers to either do this against the account object, lead object, or probably the contact object. So I'll choose contact. All right, so step 3 is an optional step. I can filter the data if I wanted to do that. So if I only wanted to validate contact records that were created this year, or for a particular region. Right? So you've got some flexibility to limit what we're going to actually validate. In step 4, this is where you do the main configuration of the service, and you're just going to go ahead and map your fields over. What are the address fields that you want to validate, email address field, and phone number field? For postal addresses, we have different formats, so depending on the source of data, different applications have different types of fields for addresses. So we've got a discrete format, we've got a hybrid format. This is really what I'll use for Salesforce. We've got an unfielded. Really, just go ahead and put the various fields and we'll figure out what's the street, what's the city, what's the state, and so forth. And then, as you see here, we can also continue to add fields if there's not enough there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this up with my mailing address fields. So city, let's go city, country, postal code, state, street. So for those of you familiar with the data synchronization service, very, very similar interface. Go ahead and grab my email, and I'll grab my phone number field. Maybe I'll just choose mobile phone. All right, so now we can move on to step 5. And this is where the output of the validation will get sent to.
And Ron, just for clarification, a question came in. This data is local and not in the cloud, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So we can connect to really anything that Informatica Cloud can connect to. So it's typically going to be either Salesforce, or it'll connect to an on-premise SQL Server database, Oracle database, whatever you have, we can do that. All right, so the output, so after we do the validation, we will write the output into some files here. So we'll have the validated data go into this file name. And we can also create a secondary file for the invalid data. And that can contain the rows that didn't validate for postal addresses, email, or, again, records that don't actually match up with the Do Not Call registry. And then additionally, I can actually go ahead and add up to 30 additional fields so that it gives context to the data. So it's not just going to be returning back the email, address, and phone number fields. You can add what other fields you need from the source system. And the 6th step, you can schedule these tasks to run on an ongoing basis if you'd like to. And there's some additional advanced options here that are specific to the services that we're invoking. But for most people, again, you'll either schedule or not schedule those things to run. You'll just manually run them. All right, so going through the service is very, very straightforward. Now, one of the great things, being that this is part of Informatica Cloud, is that you can use this capability in conjunction with the other capabilities that Informatica Cloud has to offer. So for instance, we actually can leverage our task flow capability. So if you wanted to actually put in place a data cleansing process where on a nightly basis you want to go ahead, take a look at your contact data, validate and cleanse the good data on a nightly basis and do that in an automated fashion, and maybe with the invalid data every morning, a data steward or somebody responsible for the data would take a look at the invalid data to see what's going on there. That's how we would expect the service to be leveraged. So to automate for the good records, we'll just go ahead, and I've already created a task flow to demonstrate this. Nightly cleanse, run it on my nightly schedule, and step 1 would be to go ahead and perform that contact validation. And only after that has completed successfully can I then run my updated cleansed contacts. That's my data synchronization task that I've created, which will read from the validated file, and then it'll perform an upsert or an update into Salesforce. So that's the great thing about this service is it's fully integrated as part of the solution, and then you can use it in conjunction with the other capabilities. All right. So hopefully that was pretty clear. I think it's great to be able to go through something with this much functionality so quickly, because again, I think this matches what we're trying to do with Informatica Cloud. Nice, simple, easy to use, but still very powerful capabilities.
So Ron, we had a question that might just be about based on the system you're running. In the source list, I noticed DMB 360 fields. How and when would that work? Are you taking DMB data and validating it?
Wow, we've got some very keen eyes out there. I'm actually connecting to a Salesforce org that has the D&B 360 offering from Dun & Bradstreet already installed on my org. So this particular service specifically doesn't interface with the D&B 360. If for those of you familiar with the application, you have an application from D&B that has DUNS numbers or D&B data embedded within the Salesforce objects. This particular solution doesn't work directly with those fields, but for those of you familiar with the solution, we are embedded, the Informatica Cloud offering is embedded within that solution. So we can maybe even take that as an aside if you'd like.
And another question just fundamentally about the agent. Does Informatica Cloud handle the communication between third-party web services, or is that done from where the secure agent is installed?
Good question. So it's actually done from where the secure agent is installed. So the secure agent will go off and make the appropriate calls. So we actually leverage address doctor capabilities. That's our own Informatica-based postal address validation. And we have a partner, StrikeIron, where we're leveraging some of the other calls. So all of those calls are actually made from the agent directly.
Great.
All right. So let's take a look at the real-time capabilities. This is actually something I'm very excited about, and I'm glad to see there's quite a few customers on this call. I think a lot of you will find this very useful as well. All right. So for my real-time use case, I think I'll go ahead and deal with probably the most common one that customers deal with on a daily basis, which is an opportunity to order use case. Right, so it's very common is you've got opportunities that are out there, let's say in Salesforce, and the goal is as soon as an opportunity is closed, ideally you go ahead and automatically create an order in a back-end ERP system. Right, so to demo that, again, I've got my opportunity with some records, and what I've just brought up on the screen is the SQL Server Query tool, and this is my little back-end ERP system that I have. And basically, I'm looking at my order table. And if we do a refresh here, we'll see that we currently have no orders in that table. All right, so what I'm going to do is leverage this new functionality, change an opportunity to 100%, and let's watch that order get created here inside a SQL Server. All right, so let's go back to Informatica Cloud. And what many of our customers are already doing today is they'll likely have a data synchronization task pre-built. Right, or you'll build one of these tasks where you'll source from the opportunity object, you'll target that order table in the back-end ERP system, you'll go ahead and map everything over, and likely you're running on a 5-minute schedule or a 1-hour schedule, or maybe you're running 4 times a day, where you're checking to see, since the last time I ran, are there any new orders that I need to pull? Now with Winter 12, you can actually run this in a real-time mode now. So instead of running on a schedule, we now have this additional radio button to run this task in real time, leveraging outbound messaging from Salesforce. Right, so how does that work? Well, first of all, I will need to cut and paste this URL, and I'll show you exactly what to do with this in just a sec. Let me copy that, and let's go back into Salesforce. All right, so in Salesforce, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it does have workflow capabilities where you can actually go off and define rules like this rule I just created. When an opportunity is changed and now that probability equals 100%, I can invoke essentially triggers. So to define the rule, very straightforward. And I've created a trigger or an action, which is one that's known as an outbound message type within Salesforce. And what that will allow me to do is as soon as the trigger is invoked, I will send the appropriate opportunity fields over to this endpoint URL and make a web service call. And that URL that I just copied, you would just paste that here into this endpoint URL field. So it's very straightforward. There's actually nothing you really need to do. If Informatica Cloud is already working in your environment, there's no additional steps that you would need to do to take for opening up ports in the firewall, putting things out in the DMZ. None of that is required. You would just paste that URL into the endpoint URL field here, and then hit save. And then if we go back now and let's activate this rule. Okay, go to create order, and we'll go ahead and activate it. Okay, so now let's go back to the opportunity object. And let's grab one of my opportunities here. I've got my Acme Core widget purchase. And let's change this from 90% to closed won and 100%. All right, so I go ahead and hit OK. Hit save. And now if we go to Informatica Cloud, what we see in the activity monitor screen is we'll see that job come across. As you can see, this is a live demo. There we go. And we'll see the row count jump. We've got 1, and now if we bring back SQL Server and do a refresh, we see that that record has been pushed over. So in real time now, instead of going with a 5-minute check or a 1-hour check, you can actually just go in, especially for existing customers that are running this type of a process. Just need to change that radio button from the schedule to run in real time, have the appropriate workflow and outbound message rule defined in Salesforce, and you're up and running. So pretty cool stuff. I'm pretty excited about it. All right, so next, topic very near and dear to my heart. We've actually had support for the bulk API through our interactions and interfaces with our Power Center offering. So we could actually create bulk API tasks and run it in Informatica Cloud. But we've made that a much more seamless capability here in winter 2012. So if we take a look at any of our data synchronization tasks that have Salesforce as a target, what you'll see in step 6 now, towards the bottom, is advanced Salesforce target options, and you'll see that there's a radio button for use the bulk API. And if you simply check that, then we will switch from making the web services-based calls to the bulk API call. Now, one thing to note, I know many people use products like the Salesforce Apex Data Loader to do some of this stuff, or some other products that are out there. One of the nice things that I believe that we've done that's a little different than some of the other approaches is we also have the ability to run the bulk API tasks where we will monitor the bulk job. And why this is important is the bulk API from Salesforce is actually an asynchronous API call. For those of you that don't know what that means, basically you send the bulk API request, and Salesforce will say, yes, I received your request, but it may take some time to actually process that. But the response back is just yep, I received it, and you're done. So with products like the Apex Data Loader, you can submit a task, but you don't actually know if it's finished until you go in and make the appropriate polling calls, or you log into Salesforce to see, is it done? Is it done? Is it done? If you use this checkbox for monitor the bulk job, what we actually do is we turn the bulk API and basically make it look synchronous. So we will actually continue to poll. So we will show the task as running until we get confirmation back from Salesforce where we're making the polling calls to see if the bulk API task is completed. And then once it's done, then we'll go ahead and show the task is finished. Now this is important where if you have, let's say if you've got nightly task flows where you're running the account load first, and only after that's done can I load contact to make sure that I have the related objects in place. You can still use task flows to do that if you use the bulk API and monitor the bulk job checkbox turned on to make sure that we complete all loads of the account before we move on to contact. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so let's go ahead and show some functionality around connectivity. Now here, if we go to configuration, and you see I've already created a connection for my demo Microsoft Dynamics CRM application. So again, we've got all sorts of different connection types, and we will continue to expand on our connectivity with our new connectivity framework. But here I've got Microsoft Dynamics chosen. Just giving my standard connection information. Here I'm actually connecting to the Microsoft Live version of Microsoft Dynamics. And what you can also now do is with this connectivity, if we go in and take a look at our data synchronization tasks, what you'll see is that Microsoft Dynamics simply shows up just like what we show with Salesforce or with database tables or other applications that we support. You see the actual native objects. We're not showing you API calls or things that are technical. We're showing you essentially the objects that look like tables. So it's native look and feel, just as easy to use Informatica Cloud with Dynamics as it is with Salesforce, local databases, and so forth. All right, and the last thing I just want to touch upon real fast is you go to support. Again, for those that are on enterprise support, we've got now this new, it's not 4 boxes, it's now 5, live chat with a support specialist. You would click on that, and we'll send over your project details so we'll know who you are, and then we can have direct communication with you through the chat panel. All right.
So just to reiterate, Ron, that will only be available if you do have our 24/7 enterprise support. So that's something if you're one of the customers on the call, you're going to want to reach out and talk to your account manager about.
Great. All right. So Darren, you want to take back the slides?
Sure. So great overview, Ron. We've had a few questions come in specifically about some pricing and packaging questions, and we'll be following up with you on some of those details. But let's spend a minute and talk about the timing of the winter release. Just go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, here we go. And maybe actually I'll have you just kind of take us through the details of how people get involved and really can start playing around with some of the new functionality.
Yeah, sure. So to participate in the pre-release, you do need to contact us here on the product management team. So my email address is there on the left, along with Krupa Natarajan, who works for me, who's responsible for this particular release. So you can email both of us and let us know if you want to participate in the program. From a timing standpoint, starting on Monday, this coming Monday, we will have the pre-release site up and running. And for those customers that are existing customers, what we're basically going to do is take a copy of the production environment and move that over into the pre-release. So you'll be able to have access to all of your existing tasks that are there in the pre-release environment. So we're basically going to have the copy on top of the existing version of Informatica Cloud made available on Monday. And then on Friday, December 2nd, we know that we've got the holiday there next week. So we're going to give you time to go ahead and register, get your agents and such set up in the pre-release environment. And then we'll be upgrading to the new release on Friday, December 2nd. So when you log in either that day or let's say the following Monday, that's when you'll see all the new functionality around content validation service, bulk API. You'll see the outbound messaging capabilities. And then the actual full-blown upgrade on the production site itself will be done on Saturday, January 21st. So we wanted to make sure that that's after the new year. You get to do your year-end processing, and now we've got this here the third week of January.
I think that's a good point, Ron. I mean, at one point we were planning to go live with this new release in December, and we got feedback from customers who said, please don't do anything until after year end, because cloud integration is truly becoming mission critical for really all of our customers. So we heard that feedback, and we're going to do the upgrade in January. But we really want to give you time to work with it and give us feedback and look at some of the new functionality. Question, Ron, was about documentation. Is there any documentation available, and if not yet, when?
The documentation will be made available with the pre-release, or when the pre-release is upgraded. So December 2nd, as soon as the site is up, all of the online docs will have essentially the copy of the docs that will be there in production.
Okay, great. So just one last point to also note, if you visit informaticacloud.com today, you'll see quite a bit of information about the release. Ron has actually recorded a number of demonstrations of the contact validation service, of real-time as well as some of the new connectivity. You can also see some information about our new rapid connectivity framework with lots of content that points you to existing templates and connectors available on the marketplace. So we're really excited about the release. Informatica has really been focusing on cloud data integration for over 6 years now, and you can go and see the kind of data volumes we're running through our cloud-based integration service. If you go and visit trust.informaticacloud.com, you'll see we're running well over 100,000 jobs a day now through our multi-tenant service, and we've passed the milestone of 20 billion records a month. So we're really excited about the momentum, and I would like to thank our customers for continuing to provide us feedback. We do have a very active community site, so and we also have an active Twitter handle, so @InfoCloud if you have any questions. But we do encourage you to join the community and share your feedback there, and we'll have some dedicated resources around the Winter 12 release on the community as well. So with that, we'd like to thank everyone for the call and your questions, and we look forward to working with you in the pre-release.
Thank you, everyone.
And again, thank you for joining us today. This does conclude today's web conference. You may now disconnect.